Hello, Thornton Darts here, back with another video, and today's video is all about the design of Matthew Edgar's darts. Now, Loxley Darts have recently launched Matthew Edgar's darts. The link will be in the description, but I'll show you them on here. And for some of you that you may know or may not know, I've been working alongside Loxley, the team over there, and also the players to come up with some great designs for the players' darts. And Matthew Edgar's have obviously been launched already. The other players obviously coming up, but for now we're going to be talking about Matthew Edgar's darts and how we got from a few ideas to the finished product. And now I've got a load of images from stuff I'd sent them before, talk to you about a few prototypes we had, and basically just show you how we got to the final product. So let's start from the beginning. Right, so let's start at the beginning of this journey. Give you a bit of background info. So I used to be a designer for Jaguar Land Rover. I lost that job. I then got a job locally. Lockdown happened. I lost that job. No one was hiring in my sort of area, or nothing realistic anyway. There was stuff, you know, hundreds of miles away, but locally there wasn't a lot at all. So I took what I loved, design, darts, put them together, and just because I had loads of free time, I just started doing them for fun. To keep me busy, to keep me sane, and the more I posted on social media, the more people were interested, and I had a lot of requests. So I thought, why not make the most of a bad situation and, you know, start charging for my services. Sometimes I was spending all day, so I tried to make the most of my situation. So thank you to everyone that you know, helped me out on the start of that journey, which led to Loxley contacting me. They were saying, you know, we're starting up something new. We've seen your work. We'd love to collaborate, to work with us. What do you think? I was like, wow, this is great. A company wants me involved. I would love to. So I sent over some of my work, back and forth with a few ideas for some early stuff. And then we got Matt Edgar involved, who the video is obviously about. Now, I knew Matt because I'm a darts fan, but also because back in January, me and Matt practiced together. I was going to the development tour in Germany. He's going to the development tour in... development tour? He's too old. No, he was going to the Euro tour, I believe. We met up at a pub and we practiced before we both went. And I knew his equipment, I'd seen his throw. And that was a good sort of starting point for me. So when they said, you know, we're going to be working with Matt Edgar, I thought, great, I already know the guy. Super. So... now, obviously we got talking with Matt about his darts, and Matt, if you know Matt, he uses windmill navigators, which are basically like these £15 darts you can get from Argos, dead simple, and we wanted to go a little bit different. We wanted to keep it familiar, but not something that already existed. We wanted to, you know, spruce it up a bit, sexy it up. So I'm going to show you something that Matt sent across. Okay, now if you've seen Edgar TV, you'll know Matt's very basic. He doesn't have all this fancy stuff. He just does it simple so he can show the message, and that's what happened with the first draft of the design. I'm going to show you. You see what I mean? So classic Edgar style drawing. Some of the ideas we shared, he drew over the top of the sort of rough things he was looking for. And this is how it started. Very basic, like I've made on paint sort of thing. You know, it's good to always start with some ideas. Gave me a good base. We spoke about dimensions of his current darts, and that's where the ball started rolling, really. So I took this away with some of the stuff that they'd discussed about dimensions, weight, things like that, and started to have a play. So with Matt Edgar's lovely drawing in mind and to hand, and the guidance from the team, we then created what you can see on the screen. So this was based similar on Matt's navigator darts. We kept the rear grips sort of fairly similar, just the standard, nothing too grippy, easy to release. Edgar TV logo in the middle, and then a bit more of a fancy front. So obviously the black lines in there were what Matt had on his drawing, some sort of horizontal cuts. And that was just to sort of give it a bit of a different feel. Matt doesn't grip at the front, so by making that more unique, it's more of a different dart. So that was what was submitted to start, and the feedback was, this is great. Can we maybe incorporate some of Matt's other colours? Because his playing shirts are going to be mainly blue with some pink and white, and then pink with some blue and white. So I tried to add in some of that pink element in there, and I'll show you what we came up with. So then went away fairly quickly and just substituted the colours in. I subbed out the white and just put in some pink. If they were the main colours of the two shirts, why not try and incorporate in the design? And the consensus mainly was it was a bit too much, maybe. Maybe wanted to keep it, relatively neutral. And we went away and thought maybe the front was maybe a bit too plain. We wanted to make a bit more of a statement rather than just a ring grip with some cuts. So I went away and came up with a few more ideas. So, not going too far away, I basically kept the back the same with the white and blue, and I suggested maybe we mix up the front with some sort of ring grip. It's a very popular grip, sort of like Gary Anderson style, the old Phil Taylor unicorn stuff, very universal, and it allowed us more grooves to sort of colour. Very good, but then we still thought maybe there was a little bit more room for something a bit more fancy, a little bit more extravagant, and the colours we still thought maybe could do with a bit of work. So spoke to Matt and the team and worked on it some more. Then I came back with another idea. Rather than just the one ring in between, I said, why not 3 smaller ones? Just break it up a little bit more, see if we can get any more colour in there. We really liked the sort of clarity pink colour at the front. We were still debating on the blue and the white being in the same place. Was it too much? And realistically, we weren't sure how we could paint those tiny grooves. So we played around with a couple of other options. This is what it looked like as a whole at that point. I'd added in the chamfer towards the back, towards the stem, to keep that flush. So the first image that you saw obviously was just straight to the back. So we added in a bit more detail. And we thought, let's try a couple things. So I basically went away and thought of a few more ideas and see, which ones would be best. Okay, so we went away, got a little bit more creative. Not only did I experiment with rings, I experimented with some more rectangular cuts. I experimented with depths, and we ended up coming up with this design here. So there was, bigger grooves for paint. We still weren't too sure on the colours at this point. So there was still a bit more room there, but we liked the grip. The good thing about the grip was it was grippy. The rear, we know Matt doesn't like to be too grippy, but as Matt doesn't use the front, we could make it grippy and not affect him too much. So what that enabled us to do was open up to another area of throwers. So the people that threw front grip, but also liked grip darts. So it opened up to a new potential area of people that may be using the dart. So that was a real good point of this grip. I'll then show you what it looked like as a whole. So at this point, soft tip was in the works as well. It still is being considered at the moment, but obviously we wanted to see how the steel tip faced. Obviously soft tip isn't as popular here, but it's very popular abroad, in the States, in Europe. So this is what the overall sort of design looked like. Very happy at this point, but we then went away and had a fiddle with the colours. So with the colours in mind, we decided to then limit how many colours were in one area. So rather than having, the pink, the white and the blue, maybe use a different colour like black, which is well used, and still keep the pink in there, because obviously it was the same as his other shirts. So that actually looked a lot better. We then went with this design as sort of the final part. We wanted to then get Matt throwing them to see if the design was then, practical, not just good looking, and to get Matt throwing them, practice them before, he started any big events. That was the advantage of lockdown. We were able to use that time to test in a comfortable environment. So here we have one of Matt's samples. Now I say one of because there was one before this. Now I'm going to explain to you why that one didn't stay. So Matt had a 23 gram dart, which were his navigators. Now he wanted to drop down to 21 grams, mainly because Matt has a couple of wrist issues. He gets a sore wrist when throwing for too long. So we thought dropping down to 21 but sticking with similar dimensions would be a good idea. Now, when you drop down weight but don't change dimensions, there's one or two things that needs to happen. You either lose tungsten percentage, gain tungsten percentage. So Matt's darts were 90, you can then go up to 95 to get more weight for the same dimensions. Or you drill more. So you drill the hole at the back of the stem, you can drill that slightly deeper to remove some of the excess weight. Now we went with option number 2, and at the time we weren't sure how that was going to affect the balance of the dart, and when they actually turned up they were sitting quite upright in the board. So Matt likes them to sit flat, he likes to stack, but they were sitting a bit too upright for how Matt throws. So we then actually modified it by making the dart thinner, and then by making it thinner we were able to then refill in the hole at the back to make the balance point further back on the dart. So that meant that Matt then had a little bit more room in the treble and also had the weight he was looking for. And they then, when we got this sample through, which you can see on the screen, they sat really nice in the board, and that essentially was our final draft. This is then when Matt went into testing. So let's fast forward to the summer series, Matt's first real big test under pressure against the top players to really see how he felt with the darts. I've obviously been using these at home, so he's feeling pretty good. But stuff like this is what happened while he was at the summer series. Tops. Oh. So yeah, Matt was obviously performing well. He might not have mentioned it, some of you may not know, but he beat Gary Anderson with a 170 checkout. He had ton plus averages against Chris Dobie, but he lost out in that game because Chris Dobie was even higher. It was a good test for the new samples, and it was a big push on whether they then got released, whether Matt was happy with them. So that was sort of the go-ahead almost. He had a great summer series, and that's what led us closer to having the final production dart. So yeah, everything else from there on, Matt had tested the darts, he was happy with them, he confirmed them. They then went on to be properly made with the logos engraved on, come with the flights and the stems, the packaging, and that's what you see today. So the image there was taken by Mark at Love Darts. He's got a great YouTube channel as well, so check him out. And that's the story of the Matthew Edgar darts. I hope you enjoyed. Let me know if you enjoyed it. Maybe I'll do some more on some of the others. Let me know any feedback, and I'll see you soon. Ciao.